Desde hace ya bastantes años, un certamen que sale de aquí, de Bilbao, de Vizcaya, es uno de los más importantes del mundo para desarrolladores internacionales. Nace como Play, se convierte con el paso de los años en AZ Play y desde el año pasado pasa a formar parte de la agenda oficial del Fan and Serious como FS Play. Invito a formar parte de este maravilloso escenario conmigo a Jafo, alma mater y creador de este certamen. Es rarísimo esto de saludarse con el codo, parecemos como jugadores de fútbol americano o algo.
Buenos días.
Bienvenido, Jafo, ¿qué tal? José María Martínez, nunca sé si llamarte José María, Jafo.
Jafo. Sí, toma, te dejo esta.
Muchas gracias, me viene muy bien, yo soy ya con el guión.
La verdad es que todo el mundo me llama Jafo y bueno, me suelo presentar como José María Martínez, pero bueno. Jafo. Sí.
Oye, cuéntame, antes de entrar en este año, yo creo que conviene que echemos, es que son ya 11 ediciones de los premios.
11 ediciones, efectivamente.
¿Cómo nace el proyecto? ¿Cómo te va por ahí?
Bueno, pues el proyecto nace digamos, la mente pensante del proyecto realmente es una amiga, es Itxaso Díaz, es una creadora audiovisual que trabaja mucho en el ámbito del cine, del cortometraje, del documental, y ella ha trabajado desde hace muchos años en el ámbito del Cinebi, en festivales, ¿no? de cortometrajes aquí en Bilbao, y fue ella realmente la que tuvo esa idea, ¿no? ¿Por qué no hacemos un certamen también de videojuegos? Ella tenía mucha experiencia en cine, en audiovisual, pero no en videojuegos, pero ella realmente fue la que tuvo la idea, ¿no? Y bueno, ya desde un principio entré yo también en el proyecto. Y bueno, incluso antes de que abriese lo que hoy en día es el Azcuna Centroa, pues ya estábamos trabajando en la primera edición del festival.
Y has recorrido un largo camino este año, y así vamos a hablar de la enorme cantidad de participantes que ha habido. Yo estuve viendo la cifra y me parece una cosa impresionante, en unas circunstancias tan complicadas como estas.
Sí, han sido 185 videojuegos que se han presentado pues, de 41 países diferentes. La verdad es que ha habido una variedad de procedencia bastante amplia también, de todos los continentes realmente. Y bueno, en parte también ha sido porque este año hemos incorporado una nueva categoría, que es la del Serious Game, ¿verdad? Dentro de esos hemos añadido a las dos que teníamos anteriormente, ¿no? Al videojuego indie más innovador y al clásico premio al mejor videojuego vasco, ¿verdad? Hemos añadido esta categoría de Serious Game y eso también ha hecho, en cierta forma, que abramos el abanico a otro tipo de estudios. Y bueno, la verdad es que la pandemia no le ha afectado demasiado porque pues es un sector ya bastante digitalizado, ¿verdad? Y bueno, gran parte del trabajo que hacemos de promoción del festival pues es en el ámbito digital, es dentro del mundo del online, ¿no? Sí que ha habido otros años que pues igual hemos promocionado el festival yendo a otros festivales, yendo a otras ferias. Hemos visitado sobre todo prácticamente todas las ferias de Europa pues para generar networking, generar contactos con algunos festivales, incluso hemos llegado a generar alianzas también en ediciones anteriores. Y este año pues ese trabajo más físico de visitar ferias y tal pues ha tenido que ser virtual, pero bueno, pues hemos conseguido al final unos buenos resultados en cuanto a cantidad de proyectos presentados, pero también en cuanto a calidad, porque la verdad es que es un trabajo muy difícil para el jurado evaluar ahí tantos juegos por una parte y luego decidir, ¿no? Que es algo que siempre comento al jurado, ¿no? Que cuando se decide quién va a ser el ganador o quiénes van a ser los finalistas, se habla siempre del fallo del jurado, ¿no? Y realmente es que es un fallo, o sea, es un fallo porque nunca es posible, en fin, nunca llueve a gusto de todos, sí, ¿verdad? Y es muy complicado muchas veces tomar una decisión, ¿no?
Yo creo que más que empezar a preguntarte por los finalistas, es que los vamos a ver ahora. ¿Qué se viene ahora? Cuéntanos.
Bueno, creo que vamos a empezar, ¿no? Precisamente por el bloque este el premio al mejor Serious Games.
Que podemos explicar que un Serious Game es una aplicación que utiliza las mecánicas del videojuego y de la gamificación para fines que no son necesariamente lúdicos. El aprendizaje, la cultura, el turismo, la publicidad, toda clase de finalidades que han utilizado la vía del videojuego para expresarse.
Sí, digamos que hemos recibido por una parte lo que muchos consideran Serious Games desde una perspectiva clásica, ¿no? En el sentido pues, de videojuegos, o lo que has dicho tú, ¿no? Aplicaciones multimedia, interactivas, que de alguna forma recogen las mecánicas del videojuego pues, para objetivos concretos de formación, de especialización, de educación, etcétera, ¿no? De concienciación. En este caso también hemos recibido muchos videojuegos dentro de esta categoría de Serious Games que no tienen muchas veces ese objetivo claro de, por ejemplo, ayudarte a utilizar una herramienta, ¿no? Pues yo que sé, aquí por ejemplo en Euskadi tenemos empresas que se dedican a crear Serious Games muy enfocados al mundo de la industria, 4.0 también, a temas de formación en el uso, por ejemplo, pues de máquinas elevadoras, ¿no? Con unas gafas virtuales que puedes, digamos, formarte, ¿no? En cómo conducir una de estas máquinas en un contexto muy cercano a lo que luego es la realidad, ¿no? mediante tecnología virtual. En este caso hemos recibido muchos videojuegos que tienen que ver más con educarse como persona, por ejemplo, ¿no? O sea, que un jugador reflexione también sobre cómo son, por ejemplo, los procesos de maduración durante la adolescencia, ¿no? De generación de identidad, de las crisis que pueden tener las personas en ese periodo de maduración, ¿no? Que no tienen esa función tan objetiva, tan clara, pero desde luego sí que educan a las personas pues, para formarse, ¿no? Para
Yo creo
ser mejores
que
personas.
vamos a ver un primer bloque, si te parece, de vídeos.
Sí, el primer bloque que vamos a ver es el primer juego de Jutsu Games, que es un estudio polaco, que tiene un videojuego que se llama 112 Operator, que es bueno, un videojuego nacido desde el ocio. Bueno, lo mejor es
vamos,
que lo veamos,
vamos a verlo. Y tenemos también
lo van a explicar
a continuación
mucho
Embracelet de Machine Boy. Vamos a ver 2 vídeos y volvemos enseguida.
Muy bien.
What's your emergency?
So my name is Bartek and I'm the chief designer behind 911 and 112 Operator games. 112 Operator is the sequel to 911 Operator, a well-received game that I hope you already know. In the game, the player takes control of the emergency units, so police, medics and firemen, and dispatches them to various incidents, like all kinds of accidents, injuries, crimes and fires.
Ready to copy. Waiting for orders.
The game has 2 important aspects. First is technical. Those are the maps of real cities based on real geographical data. Every single city in the world is playable in the game. Second aspect are realistic voice-over calls based on real stories. Implementing real geographical data was kind of a rocket science. We had to process a few terabytes of data and deal with over 100,000 cities. We used OpenStreetMaps, so community-based data, and those have some huge problems with inconsistency. We had to deal with lack of crucial data, like missing hospitals and stations, missing roads, lack of street names, etc. Moreover, this time we decided to extend the gameplay by real-life districts and administrative areas, and apparently the system varies a lot from country to country. Another aspect is data delivery. We couldn't include over 100 real cities data in game build, so we had to invent a smart server-side delivery of those, based on so-called content delivery networks. On the other hand, we didn't have to do too much map design, as those could be generated. But we also decided to research the crime statistics and legislation in various countries that we wanted to base the gameplay campaign on. That was not an easy aspect too, as that data is not easily available.
112, what's your emergency?
He's coming! He's going to kill me! What does that matter? I can see the train! I can't leave the building! My sister is there!
That's way too risky. You might die.
Concerning the calls, to make the game realistic, we had to learn dozens of medical procedures and first aid instructions. We actually decided to teach those to players by displaying the instructions on every loading screen. And it did help. We received some number of thanks from our players, stating that those instructions helped them when they had an accident in real life. And that was one of our biggest successes and satisfactions. Apart from that, researching the subject, we listened to over 1,000 real-life calls, some very dramatic, about various lethal accidents, suicide, murders, rapes, acts of vandalism or racism. We try to represent them in-game as realistic as possible. We also learn how difficult this job is in real life, and here I would like to send my regards to all the real-life operators that save our lives every day. I hope that our game makes your work a bit more recognizable. By the way, our main voice actor, Ian, was a real-life operator and also gave us a lot of insight to the work. During the development process, we also visited real emergency management centers in San Francisco and Poznań to see the work with our own eyes. Just a small glimpse into what we did throughout 5 years of 911 and 112 operator development. It was very hard work, but I think we did well, considering that the game is actually used as preliminary test for real-life dispatchers, and some schools utilize this to educate the children about how the emergency services work in real life.
Sir, the fire is contained. We have it under control.
Well done, people. Well done.
Sir, we have an accident involving a bus on the highway. Reports of at least 20 people injured.
Okay. Get ambulances from the Southern District to respond and have the Northern District station their ambulances to cover any calls while Southern District is...
Please consider playing the game yourself. I'm sure you will enjoy it. And you just might learn a life-saving instruction as well that I hope you won't have to use anytime. Thank you.
My name is Mattis Folkestad and I'm a game designer from Norway and I run the one-man company Machine Boy. I live in Oslo, the capital of Norway. I moved here 18 years ago, but I grew up far from here on a small place in northern Norway called Hamarøy. In many ways, growing up in the outskirts influenced and shaped the game I released this September, a game called Embracelet. Embracelet is a narrative puzzle adventure game about growing up. It's a story about love and loss, family and friendships, and it's a tale about a magical bracelet with mysterious powers. And it's set on the island of Slepp in northern Norway. My previous game, Milkmaid of the Milky Way, was a love letter to the 90s point-and-click adventure genre, and that was a game I developed in my spare time between working full-time and having small children. And Milkmaid did quite well, but I knew that if I wanted to do a new game, I had to devote all my time to do that. I had an idea to make a game about your awkward formative years, those important years in your life when you go from being a kid to an adult. The exciting and scary time when you learn more about the real world and more about yourself. Your first steps into independence. In Embracelet you play teenager Jesper, who starts off as an insecure boy who is struggling with school and social relations. The world is grey and depressing. But as the game progresses, you become more confident, and the color and the music mirror your journey, becoming more vibrant and inviting. I wanted to make a game set in northern Norway, and I wanted to tie Jesper's personal journey with the fate that befalls many small, faraway places. Small places in the outskirts also have their own sets of problems when the world around is changing, and I wanted my game to use this as a backdrop for players to explore. After creating a draft of the story and the game mechanic, I was lucky to get a grant from the Norwegian Film Institute, and with my savings from Milkmaid I took a 2-year hiatus from my job and started working on Embracelet full-time. I knew I wanted to get away from the old school puzzle mechanics of objects and inventories, and spent a lot of time figuring out a game mechanic that could be satisfying to use and could be intertwined with the story. The idea of a magical bracelet that has telekinetic powers was kind of far out, but I needed to find game mechanics that could be interesting and not break the flow of the story. So the bracelet's story and its usage became a vessel for the narrative, a constant mystery that lingers in the background all to the end. It makes the player curious and wants her to play all the way to the end. I kept the difficulty deliberately easy to make sure that I could get the player to stick with it all the way to the credits. Embracelet is a very ambitious project for a one-man studio. I knew that I had to plan well and make a solid workflow to not end up, like this. I spent a lot of time designing and creating the world with a very, very specific minimalist thought behind it. Everything should be clear and everything in the game should serve a purpose, and everything should be designed so the player can fill in the missing gaps. Their imagination is a lot more powerful than even the most advanced rendering pipeline or photorealistic modeling. The 3D graphics were modeled and animated in Blender, and the game consists of around 40 unique characters with their own animations, between 50 and 60 different sceneries, and around 28,000 words of in-game text and 60 musical tracks. The game was made in Unity with the help of the Adventure Creator asset, alongside a lot of custom tools and functionality that I programmed for the game. The soundscape and music is very important, especially in a relaxed game like this where you take your time and explore. The main theme of the game was actually made before the project started, and in many ways set the tone for the story and feeling of melancholy that is prevalent in Embracelet. I love learning new stuff, and I had never composed orchestral music before. I wanted some of the scenes in the game to be grand and majestic, so I had a lot of fun doing these big scores for certain scenes. I wouldn't be able to make a massively diverging story with multiple branches and subplots. But it was important that your choices in the game allowed for some role-playing. Jesper, the main character, was designed to be a bit of a blank slate, again for the players to fill in the missing gaps with their own interpretations and emotions. The game deals with loneliness and self-discovery as much as discovering the world and the people in it. The mistakes we make as people and the ways we try to make up for them runs through the game to the end. You meet 2 other teenagers on the island, and depending on who you spend time with and how you play, the game will end in 4 different ways, from platonic to romantic. Having these choices was important to me. I wanted the player to feel comfortable in exploring issues of sexual identity and friendship and independence in a non-pressure, offhand way. As the game progresses, you get involved in the ongoing oil serving projects that are going on in the region. This has a real-world parallel, as there has been a big discussion in Norway for years regarding the oil industry in these very fragile and environmentally important areas. With magical bracelets and coming-of-age themes and environmental issues, this might sound like a game that's biting off more than it can chew. But when I wrote the story, I realized that all these things fit quite well together. There are all these causes and effects both from the outside world and the inside of our minds that change the course of history. And it's the ties between people that make these changes bearable and worthwhile. Making a game is hard and scary, and making it on your own and putting all your heart into something is even scarier. I am so relieved that the reception of Embrace-It has been wonderful. Reviews have been great, and I've gotten many touching messages from people from all corners of the world thanking me for making this game. I set out to make a game that had a strong emotional core and an uplifting tale that would stay with the player after the credits roll. I hope that Embrace-It can inspire other game developers to create games from their own backgrounds and experiences. And to quote Carolina from the game, you gotta follow your heart. Thank you.
Bueno, estamos de vuelta tras estos 2 vídeos. Oye, qué maravilla el Embrace-It este. Qué
sí,
bonito.
¿verdad? Qué gozada.
Bueno, vamos a terminar de ver el bloque de Serious Games. Si te parece, presenta tú, que sabes mejor que yo los juegos que van a venir.
Pues mira, vamos a ver primero un videojuego de realidad virtual que se llama O-Shape, que es de un estudio español, Others Lab. Después vamos a ver un videojuego que también está nominado en otra categoría, que es Radical Relocation, que es de Winglet Entertainment, que es un estudio de desarrollo de Nueva Zelanda.
Caramba.
Y luego veremos otro videojuego que es The Wake, Morning Father, Morning Mother, que es de un desarrollador en solitario, igual que este último que hemos visto. Y es un desarrollador que nos ha mandado su juego desde Corea del Sur.
O sea que tenemos solo en este bloque, que hago memoria, Polonia, Suecia, España, Nueva Zelanda y Corea del Sur.
Correcto, pero es Noruega en vez de Suecia.
Noruega, perdón.
Ahí cerca se está.
Pero bueno, muy cerquita, muy cerquita. Es que me saqué geografía con chuletas. Vamos a ver el siguiente bloque, nos vemos en unos minutos.
Muy bien.
Hello guys, I am Jaime Pichardo. I am the business director at Others Lab, developers of the game O-Shape, which is a VR rhythm game in which you have to go through walls, as you see here in the picture. And there are some other mechanics that we will discuss later on. Everything goes to the beat of the music, and it's extremely fun, and it's actually very exhausting when you have a long session, so it makes up for a very, very nice workout as well, that we will see later how that also influenced us in the development. To give a little bit of a background around our company, Others Lab was actually generated as a spin-off of an IT company, and the founders are VR enthusiasts. This was originated in a very interesting way, I would say. So I'll explain the origins. The founders had great passion for VR and really believed that it's a market that it's going to thrive. We're seeing it thriving right now, but we still see that it can grow so much more. So they decided to put some funds aside and start an idea contest with the components of the company. And this is the way they kicked off this new adventure. What were the requirements for that idea company? Idea contest. It was to make a fun and simple game with very straightforward mechanics. Basically, you see it and you know how to play it right away. Rhythm had to be at the core of the mechanics. And then we also wanted a buttonless experience. So no need for strange controls or selecting lots of things. So you basically just select song or select a level and you play it. That's everything we wanted. And we wanted to use an unexplored mechanic. So nothing like it was present in other games already. So there was a brainstorm process. So during those days in the company, this is actually what you could see. Everyone was looking like this all the time. And then there was one idea that really stood out. How it was explained then, it was basically mixing the famous content mechanics of the TV show Hole in the Wall, and then adding all the requirements for the idea, throwing some music in, and then use visuals and walls to differentiate from other games. So for those who don't know, this is the reference. This is the TV show Hole in the Wall. It's actually hilarious, where basically the contestants, what they had to do was just to perform the shape and avoid falling into the pool, which we can see this lady wasn't really successful that time. This is actually how it was pitched. So as you guys see, this is it was very, very creative how they did it. It was basically a presentation, music in the background, and they were performing how it would be. This is already kind of validating how fun the game can be with literally a PowerPoint and music. So it was actually kind of genius. I'm jealous I'm not the one who actually came up with the idea. And these guys were the winners of the live pitch execution. Let's go to the next one. I'm gonna sum up very briefly our team for O-Shape. So we had 2 developers that basically were using Unity to build up the entire project. We had 1 artist that had to design walls and lots of more walls. Then 2 guys in marketing and business. I'm one of them. I'm the one running the business here, and also the presentations, as you can see. And basically, we let people know that O-Shape exists, and it's very cool. There's 1 level designer, which is actually also doing QA and has a very interesting profile. He is actually a dancer, and what he does all day is basically, you see him dancing in the office. We will see a video later, and it's magic what he does. And then, of course, a set of managers to make sure that we have enough projects to work on the studio. This is part of the team. Well, it's actually the biggest part of the team. We're currently growing a bit more. And these are our Slack profile pictures, because COVID, we couldn't take a group pictures, blah, blah, blah. So moving on, what were the main challenges? 5 minutes, okay, I think I have enough time. What are the main challenges that we faced during the development? We first had to choose the target and what our competitions was, validate the mechanics, design the levels, decide on the visual style, which is not usually the easiest part, and then make the choices for the music and the choreo style. Regarding the competition target, for VR rhythm, it's very specific. You have Beat Saber as the king, Supreme King, and then far, far, far below, you have Audica, Synth Riders, and currently you have us, which, spoiler alert, we are successful already. Then finding the visual style, we wanted to differentiate from the other games, which were basically dark and then lots of neons and lights. We wanted something clean and futuristic, and we had 2 references for this. You have Portal 2, and then you have also Mirror's Edge, especially for the menu and the main scenario. And then for Portal, we had the colors, the blue and the orange for the walls. You can see here some of the concept arts that we were making. These are actually the one below and to the right. They are actually quite accurate to our first ever environment that we used. And then moving on to the music, we did a collaboration with professionals on Dance Studio. For some reason, this is not loading right now. And it's solved. So the choreography here, this is our lever designer, the one I mentioned before. And basically, we started working with the studio. And then we acquired him because he was pure magic. So this is how he actually designs the levels. We have all the shapes that he suggested that we would bring to the game, and this is basically his day to day. It's incredible, the energy that he has in him. Moving on to the core gameplay, we had to make lots of decisions with how many types of walls do we want, pickups, how do the combos and modifiers work, do we want game modes, and how do we do it with the leaderboards. So as for the walls, these are the different ones, different mechanics that you have. You have the walls that you have to go through by performing a human shape. You have the ones that you have to avoid. You have some that you have to punch. They are red, so they mean danger, and you have to defend yourself from danger, so you punch it. And then the other ones, which are gems or coins or however you want to call them, that you just pick up, you touch, they explode. It's beautiful. It's literally a show. How did we validate the mechanics? These were the questions that we were making ourselves all the time. Is it actually fun? Is it easy to understand, which was the requirement in the initial idea? Is it simple, safe and healthy? We have the dancers there to support us with that. And does it make you dizzy? This is very, very specific to VR. And if your game makes someone dizzy, your game should not be out and accessible to people. So this is how O-Shape evolved through time. As you see, first it was dark as the references that we had. We were not convinced. We wanted to differentiate ourselves. Of course, the smiley faces on the hands were not there. We had a lot of work with the different walls, the human shapes, how they looked, how they adapted to different bodies. So you can see how it really evolved super, super quick. And today it looks so different. And it's so fun. I'm very, very proud of the team for this. Okay, so these are the hands, the hood that we had to work on it a lot because it wasn't easy to play with the visibility of the gameplay. And then once we validated everything, we worked on it, we were ready, we decided to launch on early access at Gamescom 2019 in Germany with only 8 songs and 3 difficulty levels. It was very basic, so that's why it was early access. And then in March 2020, we were lucky enough to hit the Quest store, which is a curated store. It's not that easy to enter, and we released the full version with 16 songs, modifiers. And then this last September, we actually released on PSVR, which is another store by Sony, and we are super, super happy about it. With the visual updates, this is how you see that we were evolving from the beginning to the evergreen now that we got once we have the game, that it's really full with content, full with features. And this is the visual line that we're gonna follow from now on. And one tip is that whenever you're updating your game, if you update it regularly, you make the people happy, the community happy, and you also catch the eye of the people who have seen your game but haven't yet bought it, and makes it feel more alive when you're updating them visually. That would be it. that was the process of how we developed O-Shape, how we came up with the idea, how we validated everything. And then if you like anything, you can already send me an email at jaimepichardo@otherslab.com. Thank you for your time and have a good one.
Hello, I'm Gareth and I'm one of the developers at Winglet Entertainment, developers of Radical Relocation. We're a team of 2 young mechanical engineering students from New Zealand. We develop games on the side and have been developing them since the start of high school, 6 years ago. Matthew's role at Winglet is programming, although occasionally he contributes to art and post-processing. His first programming project ever was a Mars rover. He made this back when Unity 4 was the latest version and JavaScript was still commonly used. Since then, Matthew and I have developed many games, including our first mobile app, Don't Drive Drunk, a variety of driving games, duck hunting, an environmental awareness game, and of course, Radical Relocation. All of which has occurred in our bedrooms while still at high school. One of the things Matthew loves about a small team is the opportunity to contribute towards every aspect of the game. Although his primary job is programming, he also does much of the level design, occasionally creates his own art assets, spends a lot of time in Photoshop and Adobe XD creating UI prototypes, monitoring Unity analytics, creating graphics and clips for marketing, maintaining our Discord community, developing our website, and running our business. It's a rewarding experience and we've learnt a lot. My role at Winglet is mainly art, and I was introduced to Blender at the beginning of high school after I became friends with Matthew. Subsequently, he has also introduced me to game development, and being an avid gamer, I had plenty of ideas for games. We did a lot of messing around and learning in the first few years, trying to come up with elaborate games that were very much out of our scope. But it was great learning for me, experimenting with all sorts of art styles and learning to create 3D models for games. I've never really tried to learn programming in the past, but after completing my first year of an engineering degree, I've learned the basics and will hopefully be able to contribute a little more to the programming side of development. I mostly use Blender and Photoshop, but have also started to contribute more to level design in Unity itself. Radical Relocation is a wild little physics-based puzzle game that's currently out for PC on Steam. Your goal is simple: you're moving house in a world where moving trucks don't exist. Stack your furniture on the roof of your moving vehicle as you drive to your new home. Radical Relocation was born during the 72-hour game jam Ludum Dare 40. The theme was, the more you have, the worse it is. We originally took inspiration from Polybridge and thought about balancing objects on a car crossing a bridge. We then expanded that idea and decided to theme the game around moving house. The response we got from the community was fantastic. We were inspired and decided to continue development after the competition and turn it into a fully fledged game. During the early development of Radical Relocation, we bounced around ideas of turning the game into a more realistic 3D game with hills, curved roads, islands, and textures. We experimented with fully procedural maps and levels, isometric cameras. We even considered making it into a simulator in which you're running a moving business. After many restarts, design iterations, and ideas to expand the game, we settled on keeping Radical Relocation true to its Ludum Dare origins. It would be simple, low poly, grid-based roads, and based around the physics of stacking furniture on a moving vehicle. It started with 10 brand new levels, escalating in difficulty, and with the intention of slowly introducing the player to the game and its mechanics. At this point, we were thrilled to have signed a deal with Iceberg Interactive, a deal that would help bring our game to the world. Upon signing, we were tasked with creating new content, bringing the total levels to 30, and ideas to solve the issue of repetition in the gameplay. We settled with the introduction of upgrades, 12 new vehicles, and future expansions for boats and helicopters. The thinking behind this was to allow each player to have a slightly different experience, and to enable them to play to their own strengths. I think this was also a great marketing decision. Content of Radical Relocation had great variety, no two streams were exactly the same, which kept viewers engaged and intrigued. The development of boats and helicopters was an ambitious promise. At the time, we weren't entirely sure if it would even be possible, but I believe this was the key to our creativity. It was an excellent challenge and pushed us past what we thought our limits were, a fantastic learning and development experience. One of the coolest features I think we developed was the destructible physics system. Objects in the environment such as the player's furniture, trees, letterboxes, and lampposts are all destructible. Fast forward to today, Radical Relocation has released on Steam and GOG, with now 2 major content updates. It is enjoyed by players from almost 70 countries worldwide, in 11 different languages, has a free demo with tens of thousands of players, and has seen millions of views on YouTube and hundreds of thousands of watch hours on Twitch, including the likes of Lyric, Nerd3, and other major influencers.
Yes! No! Yes! Made it! Absolute f***ing horseshit.
One of the common positive comments we've received from the game is how pretty the low poly graphics are. At the time of the game jam, our artistic style was limited, both by time constraints of the competition and our technical ability. As such, low poly was an obvious choice for us. It's now become a staple of the game's visual style. To achieve this look, we took an interesting approach and utilized Unity's high-definition render pipeline. HDRP offers a different graphics pipeline and toolset, and is often reserved for high-end AAA type games. However, we were disappointed in the quality and fidelity of the post-processing effects in the standard and low-definition render pipelines. This helped us break away from the stereotypical Unity game aesthetic, and gave our game a unique and visually pleasing aesthetic. A big challenge we faced in the development was the reliance on physics for our core mechanics. Game physics has an inherent and unfortunate consequence of being slightly unpredictable. This led to many, often hilarious issues, everything from saving game progress and remembering furniture loadout positions, to vehicles subtly vibrating and slowly sliding furniture off the roof, to vehicles spontaneously flipping over, to driving over curbs launching furniture into orbit. Enjoy this special moment from Lyric's stream.
Roll over this f***ing shit. Roll it. Tap it. Tap the throttle. Tap it. Shh. Come on. Come on. What?!
Radical Relocation has been out for 3 months now. For our first commercial game, it's been a big success. I think the success is a result of our marketing plan. We took a less traditional approach to the game marketing and decided to focus more on content creators than news outlets and press. The wacky and comedic gameplay makes the game engaging and fun to watch. This was a big moment for us, watching people stream our game, our many years of work, and seeing them truly enjoy what we created. It made the whole journey worth it. Speaking of Twitch, another feature we really enjoyed developing was Twitch integration. This system allows streamers to link the game to their stream, enabling viewers to vote for things inside the game, and these votes appear in real time live on stream. In particular, viewers can choose the furniture a streamer has delivered to their home. Imagine the mayhem that ensues in a large stream with thousands of viewers. Enjoy this short montage of hilarious moments on stream. We hope it puts a smile on your face because it sure puts a smile on ours.
I'm dead. Oh my god, you just drifted around me? Oh my god!
Go straight. Go in between the trees. Oh my god, no! The leaves?
Oh no, jet ski! No jet ski, no! No jet ski!
And that concludes a look into our past and how Radical Relocation came to be. Thanks everybody for watching. You can follow us on Twitter, and please check out Radical Relocation on Steam.
Hello everyone, my name is Somi. I'm an indie game developer based in Busan, South Korea. I've made games since 2014, including Legal Dungeon, Replica, and Retinum. I studied law in college and work as a public official, which has nothing to do with making games at all. My job gave me some fulfillment and paid me, but I always felt empty in my heart, like a big corporate machine swallowed me up. So I constantly wanted to tell someone about all the emotions, thoughts, and experiences in my life. Games for me happened to be that perfect way to recreate myself. It is a complete art form where the story, design, music, art, players' feedback all comes together. I thought perhaps recreating myself and leaving a record of the world around me would be possible through a game. So I started studying programming. In daytime, I work hard in my office, but when midnight hits, I do game development. This is my latest game, The Wake, Morning Father, Morning Mother. The Wake is a record of past wounds opened at a 3-day funeral, a record of the roots of guilt, and the memories and emotions that chain together 3 generations of a family. The journal is encoded with a simple substitution cipher that the player must break it in order to discover the contradictions that define him. Players can explore a generational curse that has swallowed a man and his life. The Wake, Morning Father, Morning Mother is the last of my Guilt trilogy. Consists of Replica and Legal Dungeon. Guild Trilogy is the series of my games that focuses on sense of guilt of mine. The first one is Replica. Replica is an interactive novel game played through a cell phone and social media, which shows how fascism and totalitarianism works. It is about the country I'm living in. The second one is Legal Dungeon. Legal Dungeon is a game about organizing police investigation documents. It is about my job. When I was preparing for my last game of Guild Project, I was planning to make a story about rights of minority. All hatred and prejudice against people who are not belong to so-called normal. I wanted to make players think about the authority of being majority. Especially, I focused on issues of gender, and I tried to read many books and watch movies and documentaries about minor gender and feminism. But while I was trying to understand other person's life, a thought struck me. Who am I to represent other person? Do I really understand and empathize their hurt? A game which is developed by someone that doesn't understand anything sincerely can make players feel anything? I was confused and afraid. And at the end of the thought, I just understood that I do not even understand who I am and what the wrong is with me. So I changed the theme of the game, which is only talking about me, myself. This video is the one recorded by my uncle when I was young. Every single thing in the game is a true story of mine. So this game can be called as a personal diary, which can be played. The Wake is going deeper inside of the root of my guilt. The Wake, Morning Father, Morning Mother is a game that discovers past emotions and wounds of mine through the process of reading and deciphering the journal. The journal is encoded to hide the realm of the subconscious. Players have to break it in and reveal the writer's secret. The main mechanic of the game is inspired by Enigma, which is used by Nazi during World War II. Nazi encrypted all their messages using Enigma, which consists of rotors and plug board. I thought this machine can be used to describe the realm of the subconscious of protagonist. His memories of childhood is filled with self-esteem and love of his mother. But in the internal part of his emotions and memories, the past wounds is hidden and it influences his whole life. It is encrypted and even himself can't understand how big and bad it is. So, players as the man has to serve the encryption of the journal to understand him. My childhood is filled with poverty, single-parent family, and ambivalence towards my parents. The game is very private and personal story, but at the same time, I believe that it covers ordinary experiences of ordinary people. Players can find their own private experiences of sorrow by understanding and empathizing through playing the game. It can break the concrete boundary which is lying between you and me. As Susan Sontag said, whenever people feel safe, they will be indifferent. I understand that conflict empathy is impossible when people were outside from other person's pain and danger. But I know that games can be a great tool of fostering empathy because it can make players to be inside of the boundary, even though it's momentary. I hope people can feel some slight consolation through my private agony.
Bueno, pues ya hemos terminado el bloque de mejor Serious Game. La verdad es que está el nivel muy alto y el jurado lo ha tenido o lo va a tener muy difícil, porque no sé si han votado todavía o no.
Ahí andan.
Estamos en ello, bien. Pasamos al siguiente bloque. Curiosamente salimos del bloque de mejor Serious Game, donde el País Vasco es una potencia a nivel europeo, y nos vamos al bloque para elegir el mejor juego vasco de los desarrollos de este año, que también ha tenido bastante buen nivel.
Sí, desde luego. Vamos a ver en este bloque, vamos a ver un juego creado por Edujoy, que es una compañía que ya lleva unos años y que cuenta en su haber con más de 300 millones de descargas de sus videojuegos. Y en concreto vamos a ver Blockville, cómo han creado Blockville. Después veremos el proyecto de un estudio más pequeño, que es Common Overgaming, y veremos su proyecto de realidad virtual, que se llama Dreamback VR.
Pues os dejamos con estos vídeos y nos vemos dentro de unos minutos.
Blockville es un juego para dispositivos móviles creado por Edujoy. Somos un estudio especializado en juegos educativos para público infantil, pero en este caso hemos querido hacer un juego de puzzles orientado no solo a niños, sino a personas de todas las edades.
El juego consiste en construir puentes con diferentes bloques y atravesarlos con el tractor intentando perder la menor carga posible.
En 2014 creamos Circus Train, un juego de puzzles con físicas en 2D. El objetivo era ayudarte de diferentes piezas para conseguir salvar los obstáculos del terreno y hacer que el tren consiga llegar hasta el circo.
Circus Train tuvo muy buena acogida como juego para niños, y pensamos que este tipo de juegos tendría potencial también para jugadores de todas las edades, así que nos pareció buena idea desarrollar una versión más compleja para todos los públicos, con más puzzles, físicas, muchos niveles de dificultad y una estética totalmente distinta.
Así que comenzamos recopilando ideas y dando forma a los primeros bocetos.
Edujoy, siendo una compañía que tradicionalmente hace los juegos en 2 dimensiones, pasar a hacer un juego en 3 dimensiones resultaba pues complicado. Uno de los primeros problemas que nos encontramos a la hora de afrontar el juego era la disposición de la cámara. La cámara, que tradicionalmente solemos utilizar como son juegos en 2 dimensiones, pues es una cámara contextual que permite al jugador recibir toda la información del puzzle para que puedan resolverlo. Pero al ser un juego que queríamos hacer en 3 dimensiones, esta cámara se nos quedaba algo pobre porque quitaba dinamismo. Entonces queríamos un enfoque que pudiese añadirle dinamismo al juego sin sacrificar esa información necesaria pues, para resolver el puzzle. En prototipos iniciales teníamos 2 vistas, una para puzzles y otra para modo conducción. Esto tenía sus ventajas y sus desventajas. La ventaja era que tenía dos escenas, entre comillas, muy separadas, que permitían asociar cada parte a una mecánica. Sin embargo, esto también generaba confusión entre cambios constantes de cámara que al final podían llegar a resultar innecesarios y pues confundir al jugador. Entonces al final desechamos la necesidad de dos cámaras y utilizamos una única cámara. Al final nos acabamos decidiendo por la ortogonal porque el punto de fuga no era tan útil en el sentido de que los controles podía parecerse que estabas tocando algo que no estabas tocando en el momento, o tocando piezas que igual pues no querías tocar. Un factor muy importante es la iluminación. En un primer momento queríamos utilizar modelos en 3 dimensiones y una iluminación estática para que el juego pudiese funcionar en casi cualquier dispositivo. Sin embargo, el hecho de utilizar la iluminación estática aumentaba mucho el peso de la build. Y al fin y al cabo, el peso es un aspecto a tener en cuenta, porque a menor peso nos ayuda a optimizar el posicionamiento del juego en las App Stores.
Después de varias pruebas decidimos mantener las luces dinámicas para los elementos en primer plano, para el tractor, el camino, los puzzles, y los fondos pre-renderizarlos para reducir el peso de la aplicación. Hicimos capturas de todos los diferentes árboles, casas, todos los elementos en 3D que teníamos, usando la luz adecuada y la posición adecuada, para que después esas imágenes pudiéramos trasladarlas a la escena final. La historia la teníamos bastante clara desde el principio. Queríamos ambientarlo en un pequeño pueblo con granjas, bosques y varios vecinos de la villa a los que deberíamos ayudar transportando animales, fardos de paja, barriles y elementos propios de un entorno rural. Para los personajes buscábamos un estilo gracioso y súper desenfadado. Algo como caricaturas de diferentes estereotipos, como el chico joven así un poco gamberrete, o el rudo marino, o la abuelita adorable, cosas así. El objetivo del juego es conseguir la amistad de todos ellos, ayudándoles a realizar los encargos que nos piden. Este concepto de amistad está orientado a mejorar la retención de los jugadores, y gracias a esto y al desafío que suponen los puzzles del juego, estamos consiguiendo que guste mucho a tanto público infantil como a mayores.
Tanto los puzzles como el perfil están hechos a mano y tienen una solución intencional. Adicionalmente, la dificultad va escalando, por lo que es un reto constante para el jugador y una forma de mantenerlo interesado en lo que es el juego. Como es un juego de físicas, tiene más de una solución, por lo que permite formas, entre comillas, no intencionales de resolver los entuertos. Lo que al final le da un eje adicional al gameplay, que hace pues que le dé rejugabilidad, le da riqueza y le da, sobre todo, momentos muy divertidos. Blockville es un juego que quiere mezclar tanto físicas como puzzles en un entorno en el que el jugador se lo pueda pasar bien. Por lo que, no sé, es algo que creo que hemos logrado.
Con tan solo 6 meses en el mercado, el juego cuenta ya casi con 500.000 de descargas y con valoraciones muy positivas entre los jugadores. Son unos resultados muy positivos, la verdad, y que nos animan a continuar creando nuevos niveles y añadiendo contenido a este juego. Blockville está disponible para dispositivos Android e iOS en las principales plataformas de aplicaciones móviles.
Hello everyone, my name is Eneko Zelayeta and I am the creator of Greenback VR title. It's a pleasure for me to be nominated for the Pan and Serious Best Basque Country game in this year's edition. And I am here to tell you a bit more about the Greenback VR game development. The project started to take shape during the 2017, and at first Dreamback VR it was a really how I can say a really hobbyist project where a very low budget. I was trying myself to create something just for fun. We can say that at that point, Dreamback VR and Comover Gaming, it was only developed, or we can say managed by me. So it was difficult to, without any prior knowledge about game development, to start shaping the project. First, I started to having clear that I want to create a horror game. Then I started to think about the history, because I think the history is something that needs to be always the main pillar of a and in this case horror gameplay. It needs to have some deep background to make to the player aware and also scared about what's happening or what's happened in that certain place. And after that, I see that I started to gain a bit of knowledge the first year of development, and we can say I started to focus into the project in my free time in a more serious way, because this project has been developed with very low budget compared with another similar, we can say similar gameplay and graphics style games, with a very much more or less economical amount, and taking into account that in that moment I, like right now, I have 8 hours work outside from my passion project, which is Come Over Gaming and Dream Back VR. It was difficult to find the right time to have the motivation and the, how we can say, the mental power to keep going forward. I have the opportunity to meet different professionals, freelance professionals that were absolutely interested in our project, and yeah, we started to work together, taking into account the small budget or economical amount we have ready for the project. So it was really difficult and I struggled so much to find the proper professionals that wanted or should be able to deliver the quality I want for the budget we were managing at the time. So it was very stressful moment during the whole development, but we can say starting from the second year up to the latest third year that we released the game, because this development takes it for us 3 complete years. And yeah, they have been very bad moments, also good moments for sure, but in general, I can say that, like in a small overview, that the project has been out thanks for the extreme dedication and extreme effort that all the team, but for sure myself, have done in this project. So that's why I am really proud of reach the end goal, which is releasing Dream Back VR, and I really take like a small part of my heart and of my soul. Talking about the development itself, we started first taking shape with everything related with the programming, with taking the history into account, what we want to achieve with the gameplay mechanisms. And when we have a working prototype 1.5 years before the release, more or less, then we started working with the art team and myself to create that incredibly detailed brick mansion. And yeah, in that moment we worked together with all the rigging, all the character concepting, environment concepting, then going to the modeling itself, the rigging, the animation for the scenes we need, and later on we focus completely into the final touches, like UI, that we wanted to create something that was more or less easy for the player to understand where to go, or mainly which objects or items will need to be interactable to advance into the history, basically. And that process of refining and fine-tuning everything took a bit more time than we expected. Also, this complicated year with all this COVID-19 stuff doesn't help anyone in the world and in this industry. But it's true that one of the best things working remotely in this type of project with different professionals across the world is that when a pandemic is going on, you are almost able to keep working on the same speed, not actual the same speed, but very near your objective to reach your market objectives. And we are happy to in this difficult year to reach the end goal and to release what we consider our child, basically. So talking about about development, we can say that everything goes mostly smooth. For sure, you have huge problems, you have so much things that you need to face and learn about it. There wasn't one day where we don't find something specific on Google or try to investigate or brainstorm something that we need to find a solution for. That was our daily day. We know that we are going to go to the office or work from home, and we are going to find issues and things to solve that we don't know how to fix. Because, like we said, myself and some of the developers that helped to me during the development, we haven't opened it, in this case, Unreal Engine 4, never before. So when I decided that I want to create a horror game, it was like, okay, I want to create something. I have this small budget, but how I am going to create, what tools I need, for sure. I always know the small details about what you need to create a game, like a graphic engine or physics engine. You need art, you need concepting, you need a way to tell the history and everything, no? But until you sit down and take all the tools and start messing around, you really didn't appreciate all the stuff you need to work to release finally a product. And this is the most important thing for me, that it's, we can say, mostly identical to what you have concepted into your head before starting the development. And that's something that I am really proud, because Dreamback VR is a reflection of basically what I have drawn into my mind when I started, before I started the actual development. It's true that we cut some features because the budget wasn't enough, sadly. But I am mostly very proud that my first idea is mostly what now the players can play across the world. So this is basically how a small overview of how Dreamback VR development goes. Again, thank you for giving us an opportunity to try to win the best Basque Country video game of the year, and wish to the rest of the competitors that are in the same fight, we can say, for the prize. We wish good luck for sure, and let's keep developing and making games. Thank you, everyone.
Hemos terminado este primer bloque con los dos primeros juegos que optan al premio al mejor videojuego vasco, y nos vienen otros tres que tienen también una pinta extraordinaria.
Eso es. Mira, dos de esos proyectos se corresponden con videojuegos creados por alumnado de DigiPen, dos grupos de alumnos. Uno de ellos es Heroic y otro es Quest for Papa Reloaded. Y en medio de las dos presentaciones de estos dos videojuegos vamos a ver un tercero, que es Itadaki Smash, creado por Main Loop, que son un estudio que ya conocemos sobradamente en el certamen porque ganó hace 2 años.
Más veteranos, sí. Bueno, pues vamos allá con ellos y os dejamos con estos 3 vídeos para cerrar el bloque de finalistas al mejor videojuego vasco.
Kaixo, oiane naiz. Erroak proiektuko arte departamentuko kide izan naiz, eta joko honen garapen artistikoaren prozesuaren inguruan hitz egingo dizuet. Proiektu honetan sartzea erabaki genuen momentutik, bagenekien zelako erronka suposatuko zuen. Izan ere, programazio taldeak egin nahi zuen joko mota azaldu zigutenean, ikuspuntu isometrikoa, horrenbeste pertsonai, gure unibertsitateko bigarren mailako jokoen historian inoiz egin ez den joko mota bat, erronka handia izango zela agerikoa zen. Hala ere, konfiantza geneukan gure taldean, eta gure buruari erronka hau jartzeko ilusioz hasi genuen proiektua. Lehenengo 2 hilabeteak kausa izan ziren, artistontzat behintzat. Gure bizitzako lehenengo jokoa sortzearen zailtasunei, 2 dimentsiotako joko isometriko bat sortzearen traba guztiak gehitu zitzaizkion. Hasieran, orduak eta orduak eman behar izan genituen, ia inungo emaitza honik jaso gabe. Baina, pixkanaka, erabakiak hartzen eta produkzio erritmoan sartzen hasi ginen. Eta konturatu orduko erroak martxan zegoen. Garapen artistikoaren zailtasun handiak, animazioak, pertsonaien diseinua eta munduaren eraikuntzan izan ziren. Jokoa bista isometriko honetan egiteak animazio bakoitza 5 aldiz egin behar genuela suposatu zuen. 2 dimentsiotako joko normal baten albo batera egingo zenuen animazioa gero beste aldera duplikatu eta listo, guk gora bera, albo batera eta 2 diagonaletan animatu behar genuen. Gainera, hain ezoikoa den ikuspuntu batetik marraztuta, goitik. Hainbat metodo ezberdin probatu genituen, zein izango zen eraginkorrena asmatu nahian, baina prozesu honetan esan bezala denbora asko eta ordu asko galdu genituen. Aldi benean, pertsonaien diseinuan ere eragin handia izan zuen perspektiba isometrikoak. Pertsonaiak eta euren animazioen siluetak ulergarriak eta interesgarriak izan behar baitziren ez aurrez ikusita, ohituta gauden bezala, goitik ikusita baizik. Eta azkenik, hain mundu handia sortzearen erronka geneukan. Mundua beteko zuten hainbat pieza, itsasoak, ibaiak, arroka desberdinak, zatika sortu behar izan genituen, munduan zehar errepikatu eta puzzle bat bezala montatu ahal izateko. Eta guzti hauek ondo enkajatzea, ziurtatzea oso zaila izan zen. Eta programazio eta artisten taldeen elkarlan esfortzu izugarri askatu zuen. Bestalde, ehundaka loratxo, harritxo, zuhaitz ezberdin, animalia eta bar sortzeak eta hauek animatzeak munduari bizitza emateko lan zama izugarri baina beharrezkoa suposatu zuen. Jokoaren esplorazio partea jokalarirentzat zirraragarria eta interesgarria izan zen. Honetaz gain, bi taldei bai artistei eta bai programatzaileei asko ardura zigun eta ahalik eta hoben egin nahi genuen partea zegoen. Euskal kultura eta mitologiaren adierazpena. Artistok erantzunkizun handia sentitu genuen honekin pertsonaien diseinuan bereziki. Izan ere, pertsonai mitologikoen irudikapen tradizionala respetatu nahi genuen, baina gure kutsu pertsonala emanez. Orduan, lamiek ile horia izan behar dute derrigorrez, edo galtzagorriek gizaki txiki itxura izan behar dute bai ala bai. Mitologiaren errespetuaren eta originaltasunaren eta askatasun kreatiboaren artearen oreka aurkitzea erronka oso polita izan zen guretzat. Honekin lotuta, joko hau euskal mitologia zabaltzeko eta bultzatzeko erabili nahi genuen. Baina azken finean akzio jolas bat zen. Nola sartu mitologia guzti hau jokoan, ahalik eta jokalari mota gehienek disfrutatu eta aldi berean ikas zezaten. Honegaitik erabaki genuen pertsonaien eta kondairen liburuzka txiki bat sortzea eta pausa menuan sartzea. Jakin min handiagoa zeukaten jokalariek baliabide hori eskura izan zezaten. Euskal kulturaren aztertze eta zabaltzeko esfortzu hontan, jolasaren aspektu guztietan euskal ondarea igerriz ezan nahi genuen. Horregaitik denbora asko pasa genuen euskal artistak eta bereziki euskal komiki artistak aztertzen. Hauek inspirazio iturri handia izan ziren guretzat, bereziki pertsonaien diseinuan. Jokoaren soinu banda garatzerakoan ere antzeko indeiarekin egin genuen. Instrumentu eta soinu euskaldunak sartzea, guztiz tradizionala ez den musika honetan ere, kutsu folkloriko hori igertzezan. Amaitzeko, erroaken garapen urte hau gora beraz betetako esperientzia izan da, baina nola edo hala, proiektu honetan eta kideok elkarrengan geneukan esperantzak aurrera egiten lagundu digu, eta oso harro gaude azkenean erroak argia ikusteak. Besterik barik, hurrengoan ikusiko gara. Eskerrik asko.
Kaixo, nire izena Nestor da eta erroak jokoan programaren talde burua izan naiz. Erroak sortzerakoan hainbat idea eta pentsamendu genituen, baina hauek biak izan ziren pisu gehienak izan zituztenak. Lehenik eta behin euskara sustatzea, eta beste aldetik euskara eta euskal kultura bideoketan garatzea. Hau, euskara eta euskal kulturan pentsatzerakoan normalean literatura eta musika datorako burura. Eta erroak sortuz, honekin apurtu nahi genuen. Honetaz gain, bigarren urtean, ikasle guztiek sortu behar dute joko bat. Eta normalean, gai eta genero berdinak agertzen dira. Bidimentsioko plataforma jokoak izaten dira normalean egiten den joko motak. Eta honengandik, ahalik eta posible zen gehiena urruntzea erabaki genuen. Horrela, gure ikasteko posibilitateak gehituz eta handituz. Erroak diseinatzerakoan mundu ireki bat izatea erabaki genuen, izan ere horrela errazagoa zelako munduan zehar detaileak sartzea eta baita ere honekin esplorazio zentzu bat lortzen dugu. Horrela, jokalaria gutxinaka zein jokalaren historian eta euskal kulturan murgilduz. Baita ere, Diablo joketako diseinu antzeko bat nahi genuen, zein eta naiz eta mundua ireki izan, puntu espezifiko batzuetan harrapatuta geratzen zinen, eta bertan borrokatzera behartuta zauden. Gero, generoan, erabaki genuen beat'em-up, antzinetako beat'em-up generoa hartzea, eta hau antzinetako genero honetako sentimendua eta jokogarritasuna berreskuratzeko izan zen. Izan ere, Captain Commando hemen ikusi dezakegun jokoa, gure inspirazio bat izan zen, zeren eta naiz eta botoi oso gutxi erabili jokatzeko, hainbat motatako atakeak eta efektuak lortzen zituzten. Orain, erroaren garapen prozesuari buruzko detaile gehiago emango dizkizuet. Garapen prozesu guztia 8 fasetan banatu dezakegu. Preprodukzioa 2019ko udan hasi zen. Garai honetan, programadoreak gure artean hitz egin genuen eta artistekin ere bai eta Confusion Games taldea sortu genuen. Honen ostean, Engine Proof fasea etorri zen. Eta fase honetarako gure bideojokoetako motorrak bukatuta egon behar zen. Ondoren, Prototype fasea etorri zen. Fase honetan zehar, jokoaren mekanika basikoenak era oso simplifikatu batean implementatzen hasi ginen. Honen ostean, Vertical Slice edo First Playable izeneko fasea etorri zen. Prozesu honetan zehar, gure artistak eta programadoreak jokoari zentzua ematean finkatu ziren. Honen ostean, alfa fasea etorri zen. Eta fase honetan zehar, jada, jokoak itxura hartu zuen. Jada munduko eremu desberdinak. Honen ostean, beta fasea etorri zen. Eta tarte honetan zehar, gure unibertsitateak ekitaldi bat prestatu zuen kanpoko jendea unibertsitatera etortzeko eta gure jokoak frogatzeko eta guri feedbacka emateko. Orduan, behin eta berriro jokatuz eta jenderi haien balorazioa askatuz, honen gainean landu genuen eta mundu bilketa nolabait albo batera utzi genuen. Ondoren, gold eta postprodukzio prozesuak hasi ziren. Eta prozesu honetan zehar, inolako mekanikak implementatzeari utzi genion. Guztiz utzi genuen hori eta jada geneukagun jokoa lehuntzean finkatu ginen. Hau izan da guztia, mila esker Confusion Gameseko taldekide guztien gandik, hemen daude haien izenak, mila esker entzutegaitik.
Este proyecto supone un giro de 180 grados en lo que tiene que ver con los juegos que estábamos pensando y haciendo hasta el momento. Nuestra anterior obra es totalmente diferente desde la jugabilidad, el arte o simplemente la temática del juego.
Este juego supone un desafío muy importante para nosotros. Es un cambio radical de género, de estilo artístico y en todos los aspectos, con nuestro anterior proyecto que fue Submerge, un juego de terror en primera persona. Como podemos ver, nada tiene que ver con lo que estamos actualmente, que es en tercera persona, con cámaras totalmente distintas y sobre todo una variedad de enemigos y situaciones y personajes a los que no estamos acostumbrados a tratar.
Hacer algo divertido, entretenido, simplemente que disfrutes de un beat'em up.
Desde que era muy pequeña tuve acceso a un montón de videojuegos maravillosos dentro del salón de recreativos, ¿no? La sala de máquinas que llamábamos aquí. Jugaba a todo tipo de juegos, la verdad es que siempre me han gustado, pero en concreto los beat'em ups tienen como un peso especial en mí, ya que, aparte de que me gustaban muchísimo, en concreto considero que mi juego retro clásico preferido es el Cadillac and Dinosaurs, ya que tenía el personaje de Hannah, que era la primera vez que me podía ver reflejada con una mujer que pegaba dentro del videojuego. El juego de palabras con nuestro título tiene una referencia a lo que es la cultura japonesa. Cuando vas a sentarte a comer o a cenar, dices la palabra itadakimasu, que es que aproveche en japonés. Nos parecía muy divertido el juego de palabras con itadaki es más, que es como la típica onomatopeya para el tema de golpear o pegarse.
Itadaki es más, es un beat'em up de la vieja escuela, en el que podemos elegir entre 4 personajes distintos para enfrentarnos a un montón de situaciones diferentes y peligros. Nos ponemos en la piel de Kachu y sus amigos, que son los propietarios del último restaurante libre que queda en la ciudad. La mafia de los Tengogo ha envenenado la comida y robado las recetas de su familia. Nuestros amigos tendrán que enfrentarse a la comida envenenada y endemoniada que puebla la ciudad y que está destruyéndola mientras recuperan las recetas de su familia.
Son 4 personajes y cada uno tiene sus características especiales con un yokai especial. Están inspirados en parte de la mitología japonesa también, como los yokais, demonios, etc. A Katsu le quisimos dar un poco más de importancia, por eso le pusimos como Oni, como un demonio, un orco de la historia japonesa. Le pusimos el espíritu de un kappa, un yokai tradicional que se asemeja a una tortuga. Les acompaña Naru, que es la repartidora, que su yokai es Kuchisake Onna. Y por último tenemos a la clienta habitual, que es parte ya de la amistad y del grupo de los 4, que sería Mayo, que su yokai es una Yuki Onna. Los enemigos están basados todos en comida, bueno, parte de ellos y otros son la yakuza de Tengogo. La que es comida son todos platos que conocemos todos. Tenemos onigiris, tenemos nigiris, también hay soja. Los onigiris que he dicho antes son sumos, o sea, es todo un diseño de pandillas, lo que eran las imágenes de casi de los 80 en los beat'em ups. Son platos muy conocidos como el ramen o los takoyakis. Algunos de ellos son darumas que tienen un ojo totalmente completo, pero el otro lo tienen vacío, porque al final tienen una misión, que es atacarte y destruirte a ti, que tú eres su propia comida.
Hemos contado con un compositor local con el que siempre trabajamos, creando una banda sonora que recuerda a juegos como Streets of Rage o Final Fight y estilos como el Synthwave con ligeros toques orientales.
Queríamos hacer un homenaje a todos esos sentimientos que teníamos cuando éramos pequeños y podíamos estar en la sala de máquinas jugando en un yo contra el barrio.
Con lo que más he disfrutado de hacer este proyecto, la verdad, es poder haber hecho toda la parte creativa a mi gusto.
Hemos conseguido superar el reto que suponía este desarrollo gracias a una profunda investigación, a probar muchísimos juegos del género y a investigar qué es lo que la gente busca en este tipo de proyectos. Los problemas técnicos hemos solucionado, como siempre, con mucho trabajo duro, que es lo que nos caracteriza en nuestro estudio.
En breve podréis disfrutar de nuestro juego en plataformas PlayStation y PC. Es nuestro pequeño homenaje Made in Bilbao a los beat'em ups clásicos y modernos.
Buenas a todos, es un placer y un honor estar hoy aquí, nominados en la Fan and Serious 2020. Mi nombre es Javier Jiménez y hoy os vengo a presentar y a hablar del desarrollo de este juego que es Quest for Papa. Este es un juego de acción top-down, aunque en 3D, que se basa en una chica, con muy mala leche por cierto, que tiene que atravesar, digamos, los barrios malos de una ciudad para poder llegar a un casino. Veremos más adelante por qué. Este juego se hizo en la Universidad de DJP en Bilbao durante nuestro cuarto año de carrera. El equipo, en el que me incluyo, está compuesto por 4 programadores y 7 artistas. No fue nada fácil, de eso seguro, a pesar de que este año por primera vez usamos el motor de Unreal Engine 4 para el desarrollo. Recuerdo bien que cuando estaba en cuarto año y teníamos que decidir qué tipo de juego íbamos a realizar, alguno de nuestros compañeros estaba bastante viciado a un juego indie muy bueno que se llama Enter the Gungeon. Y decidimos que nosotros queríamos tratar de hacer algo similar, pero dándole nuestro toque personal. Y así es como nació este proyecto. Aunque la fórmula de generar mazmorras y enemigos estaba bastante estudiada y funciona, nosotros quisimos ambientarla en una ciudad. Y no una ciudad cualquiera, sino una ciudad futurista que tuviera toques entre steampunk y cyberpunk. Y esto resultó ser todo un reto. Un reto porque, claro, hacer que la ciudad se viera de forma natural y poco repetitiva, pues requería de mucho trabajo, esfuerzo y también tecnología. Tecnología como por ejemplo un generador de mazmorras que permitiera a los diseñadores generar los niveles rápidamente y enlazar los enemigos a cada sala de tal forma que se pudiera iterar. Y también tecnología como por ejemplo una de las herramientas que se pueden obtener de Unreal que nos permitiera colocar muchos objetos de forma relativamente rápida, ya que para que la ciudad se viera realista, digamos, hacían falta colocar muchos objetos, y algunos, como las fachadas de los edificios, pues requerían de muchísimos, digamos. Y esta herramienta nos permitía agrupar los objetos y duplicarlos, randomizarlos, de tal forma que pues, nos quitará mucho de ese trabajo y tiempo del que no disponíamos. Sin duda alguna, los personajes son lo que le da vida al juego. Especialmente nuestra protagonista, Roach, que tiene una forma de ser muy peculiar. Y no es para menos, ya que no lo ha tenido nada fácil. De pequeña, su padre la apostó en un casino y la perdió. Y desde entonces ha tenido que ganarse la vida vendiendo chatarra de partes de robots que no son para nada amistosos. Y ahora busca respuestas y venganza intentando colarse en el casino donde un día lo perdió todo. El resto de personajes también tienen sus personalidades únicas y puedes interactuar con ellos y hablar con ellos gracias pues, a un sistema de diálogos que conseguimos implementar en el engine. No solo eso, sino que además estos NPCs te pueden vender cosas como vida o skins para ti y para tus armas. Por cierto, la música que estáis escuchando de fondo pertenece a Unai e Ivonne. Ivonne, no siendo parte de nuestro curso, ofreció ayudarnos con sus canciones y sin duda ambos hicieron un trabajo espléndido. Por último, queda mencionar a los enemigos y al movimiento del jugador, que son sin duda las claves y las bases de la jugabilidad. Para mi gusto, bastante adictiva y nada sencilla si no se ha jugado antes a juegos tipo Bullet Hell. Y de nuevo, para conseguir que no se volviera repetitiva, además de añadir estas zonas donde puedes hablar con los NPCs y, digamos, encontrar la calma antes de la tormenta, todos los enemigos del juego tienen más de una variación, tanto visualmente como en comportamiento. Y esto, sumado a que a medida que avanzas el juego desbloqueas nuevas armas, hace que cada situación que te encuentres sea diferente a la anterior. Por supuesto, solo he rascado la superficie y me he dejado muchos detalles en el tintero, como por ejemplo hablar del estilo artístico y el cel shading que usamos. Pero bueno, de todas formas, si a alguien le ha picado la curiosidad y quiere conocer un poco más el juego, sabed que está disponible de forma gratuita en Steam, buscad Quest for Papa. Y de nuevo, es una pena no poder estar allí en persona presentando, pero si cualquiera quiere hablar, puede contactarnos en el Twitter, @rumbacorp, y si no es posible por ahí, pues en la página oficial de Steam están todos los nombres de las personas que han participado en el proyecto. Sin más, espero que os haya gustado la presentación y hasta la próxima.
Con esto cerramos el bloque de finalistas al mejor juego vasco y entramos en el magro del asunto, el premio al videojuego más innovador. Que específicamente buscamos, sí, el mejor juego, pero el que traiga más cosas nuevas, ¿verdad? El más creativo.
Sí, a nivel de mecánicas, de estética, en fin, de cualquiera de las disciplinas clásicas del videojuego, aquel que presente características más innovadoras, pues es un poco el que vamos a valorar.
Para los 2 primeros juegos de este primer bloque de vídeos tenemos, si no me equivoco, un estudio español y un clásico del videojuego independiente europeo como es Amanita Design.
Sí, efectivamente. Tenemos a Amanita Design, que han presentado su nuevo videojuego, Crix, que lo veremos ahora en segundo lugar. Antes de Crix vamos a ver Arise, A Simple Story, que está creado por el estudio español Piccolo Studio, y vamos allá.
Os dejamos con los vídeos.
Hi, we are Piccolo Studio from Barcelona. We are Jordi and Alexis, and we are here to talk you about our first game, Arise, A Simple Story.
The story behind Arise, it's a story that could happen to any of us. It talks about very universal feelings that everyone can relate to. We wanted to create a whimsical, magical, fantastical world for Arise, but at the same time it had to be solid, tactile. We drew inspiration from animes, from Studio Ghibli.
We want the art to reflect the emotion as well, because everything we do in the game is to create an emotion. This is what we want the player to feel. So what you have seen so far is very colorful because what we have shown is childhood memories. When we step into other ages, then you will see different art styles and different modes and different ambiances that reflect the emotion of that particular memory.
Well, the main character is one of the most important things in the game. We wanted to have, stoic character. We wanted the slightest move of the body to communicate things. The man has no eyes and he has no fingers. And we tried to, to communicate with that. When you have a stoic character that suddenly expresses something, it gets straight to your heart. And when he moves, it's for something. It's for some reason. And that's how we created the old man.
Well, yeah, I think with David Garcia, we were very lucky to have him on board. He's very talented, and actually he did almost everything by himself. We just gave him very, very, very high-level guidelines for every chapter. Like, this level is about childhood and has to express the joy of being a child, and this level is about being a teenager and defying limits. So it has to have this emotion and the thrill of being a teenager.
David is a genius, and it's great to see a genius at work. The only plan that we had is, we told him we want a great emotional main theme for the game, and then we will, change and turn this theme into different songs for each chapter. So the main theme of the game suddenly turns into a waltz, suddenly it turns into a lullaby, sometimes it turns into something dark, and he did all that by himself. I mean, he's the music composer, but at the same time he is the sound engineer. He did all the sound effects, and at the same time he programs things in the engine.
He did everything.
He did everything. I mean, one day he will call and say, "Hey, I did level 5. We enter level 5 and it's all there. And it's all perfect normally."
Yeah, the music, the sound effects, and the scripting everything is there. So it's like you have to look like
incredible.
One day you open the editor and just the level sounds. It's like, wow.
It's magic.
Yeah, it's magic.
It was very easy and rewarding to work with him.
Yeah. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
We are 3 partners at Piccolo Studio. We've been together for almost 20 years now. We come from the world of advertising. 8 years ago, we created our own company, which is a digital production company for advertising and big brands in Spain. And we were making money, but we were not having fun anymore. And we have always been very passionate about video games. So at some point, we decided to create a video game company, as simple and as difficult as that. Everybody told us that it was like
a big mistake.
A big mistake. Yeah, actually they told that this is a mistake. You shouldn't do it. You should not risk what you have in another, because you are successful at advertising. Why would you risk everything at doing?
So if you're going to fail, at least fail doing what you want to do, right? So
yeah,
it was as simple as that.
Yeah, simple as that. Yeah. When advertising became just a job, we decided just to try a new adventure. This led to creating Piccolo Studio, which means piccolo means small in Italian, and this also reflects our vision, how we want to craft games. We say we craft them, we don't make them. The team that we have is small. We don't pretend to be 200 people in the future. We don't want to grow that much. And we want to create things that have, not that have a message in the sense that we want to change the world, but we want to talk about something that really we feel. The concept behind Arise, which is having an old man remembering his life, is also connected to the point in life where we were when we decided to create Piccolo, because we are not that young anymore. We are not in our 20s. We are older, we are in our 40s. And what we have, which makes us different, is that we have a life to look back at. We have this vision of looking back at what we have achieved so far. And we wanted to translate this into the game experience. All video games are about the adventure ahead, but never talk about the adventure behind. And this is what we wanted to tell people. And that's how the idea of creating the company is connected to the type of game that we decided to make as a first.
We chose Arise because it implies the meaning of overcoming difficulties. Life is full of difficulties. Also because it's like you fly up and you see everything from the top. Then you can recall all your life, and then you see all the emotional roller coaster you've been through. Actually, we have put a lot of our passion in this game. Our main goal as a company is to craft games that touch people. So we wanted people to feel this connection with the game. We all created this story which has its highs and lows, and we put all our passion. I mean, we quit advertising to create something like this. We risk everything we had. So I don't think if you can put more in a game than what we put.
I think,
Actually, we want people to feel all sorts of emotions, from sad to joy to melancholy to hope to feeling the loss of someone that you love, to love someone.
I think if I had to summarize in one word, it would be empathy. We want you to feel empathy. That's also because it's a simple story. It's an ordinary man, and we are ordinary people as well.
When you're a kid and you're wandering in the woods for the first time, or when you kiss a girl for the first time, it's extraordinary to you.
When you are talking video games, it's always about this huge adventure, and you are the chosen one about something. You are always the chosen one.
Yeah, that's boring. It's boring to be the hero every time, and save the world every day. Okay.
I think we will put that in the video actually, because that's great.
Okay. Through gameplay, you get people to, you exponentially multiply the power of what you're communicating to, because you're not just exposing something, you're communicating something through the actions of the player, and that was our goal from the first moment. We had the idea of time shifting.
So, and we said, okay, remembering at some point is going back and forth, an event in your mind. So we said, okay, we can turn every chapter into a time lapse. And this to us helps convey the idea of remembering, but also creates a setup to build puzzles and situations which are interesting to the player.
Actually, when we were designing the game, most of the times we never talk about puzzles. We talk about situations and scenes. So it was the narrative first, always. So we tried to create, the elements and to find the right time lapse that could play with those elements that could communicate that high level idea into grounded mechanics. When you shift time and you see sunflowers orienting to the sun, you don't have to explain that. People understand that. People expect that.
The first version of everything that you will see in the game was way more complex than what has ended up being in the game. For example, I think in the childhood level is the best example, because we had very interesting puzzles that we had to remove because it felt like working. And childhood is not about working, it's about being a child and enjoying things and being surprised by giant things and giant animals and horrors. Then when you get into the more adult ages and being old, then an intellectual puzzle situation, it makes sense there, because being old is about thinking, it's not about running and jumping anymore.
Most of the situations that you find in the game are intellectual rewards, not skill rewards. And that's how we did it.
Yeah, and a lot of testing.
Yes. Arise, it's an emotional roller coaster. It talks about sadness, happiness, love. So it felt just natural that you could share all those feelings with the people you love, with the people you care for. So that's why we have local co-op mode, and you can play the game with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your father, your daughter, your grandfather. So one player takes control of the old man, and player 2 takes control of time. We wanted both players to feel that they were together doing things. So that's why we call this mode Together mode. We want to play with, our mates, with our friends, with our fathers, with our kids. So we designed the game so that one player can be a hardcore gamer, the other one, it's not necessary to be skilled to solve problems.
And this is the idea behind the design. This and the communication, because you have to talk to each other all the time. Thank you for watching us talking about our first game, and we are very excited to see your reactions.
Hello, my name is Radim Jurda, and I am from Amanita Design Studio, and I am lead designer and artist of a game called Creeks. Creeks is the newest game from our studio, and it was released this summer. In this talk, me and my friend and colleague Honza Chlup will tell you how we created our game. Okay, and we will do it in a way that I will start the talk, and around the halfway through we will hop to Honza and he will continue. In the beginning, I would like to show you the trailer for the game to set a little bit up, and then we will go back to talking. Alright, so now I would like to tell you about the basic idea of our game, and it comes from the situation when you are in a dark room and you see some strange silhouette in a corner, and maybe it looks like some strange creature, maybe some monster, but if you turn on the light you see it's not a monster, it's maybe just a stand coat with some clothes on it, so it's just like a harmless piece of furniture. And we have these kind of creatures in our game. We call them creeks, and here you can see one of them, which is like this dangerous dog in the dark and a harmless night table in the light. And we have a bunch of these creatures in our game, and each of the creatures has a different behavior. And I would like to tell that Creeks is a puzzle game, and the gameplay consists of understanding these behaviors of these creatures and using both of their forms, dark and light, in order to progress in the game. Now I would like to show you some early sketches that was in the beginning of the development of the environment for the game. So this is the first sketch of the game's world, which I like that it actually really resembles the final look of the game. In this sketch I was trying to find out if I will set the game in the underground house or underground city. In the end, I decided to go with the house, which is a little bit more intimate and a little bit maybe simpler. And in this sketch, you see all the important things we have in our game. You see the hero here, the lights, this bird character, some monsters. And as we were doing these sketches, we were also creating the story for the game. And I would like to tell that Creeks is actually continuing in the Amanitas tradition of a wordless storytelling. So the whole story is told without a single line of dialogue, and we created really detailed large storyboard of around 1,000 pictures, and because we are not sure if it will be understandable for the players, so we created this really detailed storyboard and show it to our friends to see if they understand it only from the pictures. We decided that our world will be divided into a few districts. We call these districts worlds, and each district has a different look, and a different character is living there, and the new monster is introduced in these worlds. So I made a few sketches of these districts to find the visual style of each of them to be distinct from each other. So this is the sketch for the attic. This kind of brownish, a lot of wood is there and old tools. Here I have a sketch for the towers world, which is inspired by the Gothic architecture and has a spiritual and space themes. This one is, on the other hand, inspired by the Cubist architecture, so it also has a different look and feel. And at the same time I was doing this, I was designing these creatures, so I made a lot of sketches, a lot of notes, and created the gang of our characters. This is just like 3 of them, we have more. And each of the characters is, as I told, is behaving differently. So the dog is chasing the hero, this guy is mimics his movements, and the jellyfish is just flying around. Here you can see the evolution of our hero from the first prototype to the final appearance in the game. You see the clothes kind of stay the same, but some proportions changed. His head became bigger, his eyes started with 1 pixel and ended with the really big open eyes, which was nice for the wordless storytelling. So his expressions were more obvious. Also his hands became bigger, which was better for his gestures. So they were more obvious also. Here you can see design of one of our NPC characters. We have there these strange bird creatures characters. And here you see that we were using cutout animation, and we actually did really a lot of cutouts. It was like 200 cutouts, sorry, for a character. And sometimes we also combine it with the sprite animation. For example, the changes of the creatures are made with the sprite animation. And here I would like to show you how the puzzles and backgrounds were made. So in the beginning, usually I had some idea for the puzzle, and I did this really simple storyboard when I see if the idea is any good. And if it was good, we created a prototype in Unity. And then interesting work started, because I had to design some environment, like how it will actually look in the game. And it was interesting because I already knew the shape, and I had to find some nice environment that it will somehow organically fit this shape. So I made different sketches and designs. In the end, I like this one. So I print it. On the light table, I put it on a paper and do the ink drawing, use the watercolors, and then scan it again to the computer. And then we continue to work on it in the computer and add colors and post-production and shading and so on. And this is the final look of the level. Here I have just a few more drawings from the backgrounds. This is one. Here is another one. And we actually made really a lot of these drawings, and half of our game is made in this way. But we find out that it's nice, but it's really, really time consuming. And for example, if we made some mistake and wanted to repair it, we have to again print it again, draw it again, scan it again, and it was really, really time consuming. So we were thinking that maybe we can try to combine digital drawing with some scanned, painted textures. And more about this will tell you Honza, and a little bit, and he will continue with this talk. So Honza, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you, Radim. Hey guys. As Radim mentioned, we've decided to do the backgrounds digitally. It brought multiple advantages, and it was also a huge time saver. First, we created our own textures and brushes that imitate the real tools that we used before. Then we did the drawing as we would on a paper. You can see it here. In the next step, when the basic drawing is ready, we start with a post-production. we've created a set of post-production rules that helps us keep levels visually similar throughout the game. When you play the game, you can see that it is full of animated objects. We are using so-called cutout animation, which means that each part of each object that moves has to be drawn and exported separately. Here you can take a look at animation timeline. During the development, we started to do a lot of things much more efficient. For example, lights. Well, now we simply take the dark version of the background and we just make it brighter. Each district of the game consists of multiple levels, and when you're playing the game, you can see from one level to another. So, to make the world look seamless, we put all the levels into one huge file, and there we do additional adjustments. And this is how the level looks when it's final. Now I will play you a short video where you can see how we search for the proper shape of the level. I should tell you that making graphics for each level is a puzzle in itself. You get this prototype, and your task is to invent architecture and the theme for the level. It has to be funny, interesting, and also done in a way that it doesn't disturb the player too much when he or she is solving a puzzle. It has to fit the overall theme of the district. So, for example, in this level there are 2 coat hangers, and we decided that it would be really nice if they kiss at the end of the level. So, okay, let's move on. The game is full of collectible paintings. I'm going to show you some of the first experiments that didn't make it into the game. After some tryouts with various art techniques, we decided to go with an oil. We thought it is a very unique technique to be found in video games. We naturally wanted to see our favorite techniques alive, and this could be achieved through the medium of video games, which is actually great. The inspiration came from various chapters of history of visual art, mostly from paintings of the 18th and 19th century, but also from illustrations or movies. During the process of developing the main storyline and characters, we've also established a few areas of interest for the paintings. We know that there will be a hunter character quite early on. So with this in mind, I've looked for a famous hunt scenes from famous painters such as Velázquez or Gainsborough for inspiration. And you can literally find fragments of their paintings in our game. Well, these paintings offer quote-unquote windows outside from the cave. These paintings show fragments of the history and mythology of the mansion and its inhabitants, and brings another layer of complexity to the world of creeks. The details and motifs in the paintings offer rather implicit connection to the main storyline. During the pre-production phase, we were coming with a lot of ideas in form of sketches, which was a lot of fun. Well, now let's take a look at how the painting is done. Well, first I do a sketch. The sketches are done in a very quick manner, just to save an idea for later use. Then, when a sketch is done, we got to paint it. Oh, I mean, first we have to finalize the sketch in Photoshop. And then when a sketch is done, we have to paint it. And this is me doing just that. And when the painting is finished, we have to take a photo of it. And this is how the painting looks right after we import it into computer. And this is how it looks when we do the post-production in a Photoshop. As you can see, the post-production is quite heavy. In our game, we have 2 types of collectibles. Static paintings that plays the music when you pull the string, and paintings that are playable minigames. The process of creating playable paintings is similar to creation of static ones, but we have to make a prototype to test if the game design works. Let me play you a short video that may explain it a little bit more. Yes, there are some sketches, and now you can see the prototype that I programmed with animations and graphics. And here are some cutouts. And our paintings resemble antique automatons, and our intention was to support the mechanical feel of it, so we adjusted functionality, graphics, and game design accordingly. And now I should tell you something about the music, because there's a wonderful music done by British musician Joe Escherson, aka Hidden Orchestra. The music is unique and it plays a very important role in the puzzle solving, because every time the player is closer to the solution, music changes, and it gives the player a small hint that he is on the right track to solve the puzzle. The music is also heavily randomized and generative, so it will never sound exactly the same twice. At the end of the development, we struck a deal with Apple, and we implemented the touch controls and optimized the game a lot. We worked with another company called Grip Digital to achieve this. They helped us to release the game on almost all of the most popular platforms today. Well, that's it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this talk, and goodbye.
Nos acercamos ya al final de esta presentación de juegos de FS Play. Tenemos el último bloque de vídeos de finalistas. Los últimos 3 finalistas que vamos a ver, bueno, o mejor dicho, de los últimos 3 finalistas que vamos a ver, el primero no lo vamos a ver porque ya lo hemos visto. Es el Radical Relocation de Winglet Entertainment desde Nueva Zelanda. Con lo cual pasamos a los siguientes 2, que sí que nos faltan por ver, que nos puedes presentar tú, Jafo.
Sí, pues el primero de ellos es de Flowers Collectors, que es creado por Mipumi Games, un estudio austríaco. Y luego veremos The White Door, creado por el estudio Rusty Lake de los Países Bajos.
Vamos allá. Bueno, antes de entrar con el vídeo, perdón, aviso de que ha habido un pequeño cambio en la agenda por causas de fuerza mayor, porque se nos van acumulando los vídeos y los retrasos y preferimos que cada cosa tenga su tiempo y se pueda emitir con tranquilidad. El primer bloque de finalistas del premio Nuevos Talentos se va a emitir a las 2 en lugar de a la 1, como estaba previsto, más que nada porque ya son las 1:15. No podemos viajar atrás en el tiempo. Dicho lo cual, damos paso al último bloque de vídeos de FS Play.
So when we started working on the game, we wanted to do a game about a person in a wheelchair. And to make it more interesting, we wanted to be about solving a crime or a mystery story.
My legs.
It quickly became apparent that making a game about crime or mystery set in the current day would be a bit boring maybe, or a challenge because of all the digital information sources we have nowadays. So we started looking for something that is set just before the age of digital technology, and it became apparent that the 60s, 70s, maybe 80s would be a good time to place the game. We specifically wanted to have simple game interaction, so we went with simple tools. The player has the ability to observe, take photographs, and later communicate with another character using analog wireless technology. And of course we have an old school telephone here. We have experience working in a European setting with the Lion Song, and we actually enjoyed working in a setting that's close to where we're from. So we decided we wanted to place this game in Europe as well. And we wanted to make it socially relevant. We wanted to make it about a city and the neighbors. At this point I remember visiting my father, who had for quite some years now been living in Spain, and he had this apartment on a little square that looked down onto something that looked a bit like this actually, and it all came together story-wise. So looking at the time frame we wanted to do, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the location, Europe, it became apparent that this experience I had in Spain would enable us to craft something that looks authentic enough to host the setting and the story that we were going to tell. And as an extra bonus, we already had some things working in our favor for characters. We had the traditional split between conservative and working class in Spain, represented by the newspapers in the story. So we had the political angle in there as well. So this became one of the key aspects of the game. Observing characters in their daily routines and deciding how they fit into the story. The characters that we used in the game are all anthropomorphized. They're basically animals with human bodies. This was a choice deliberately to undermine player expectations when they look at them. I noticed when reading fables to my son that we sometimes used fables to present simple characteristics to the audience, and it turned out to be an interesting way to play with the preconceptions that people have. Here we have the rats, for example, who work in a little shop that repairs scooters, and they're not very rat-like at all. One part of the location design that we try to deliberately show is the social divide that existed in Spain at that time. We have the very traditional Roman style architecture of the church, for example, and in Cres, opposite, right next to it, we have a 60s style concrete building, some unfinished architecture that you see everywhere in big metropolises. And the classic end of the 19th century bordering on Art Deco style architecture that you find in European cities. Part of keeping it simple was not trying to go for the complicated crime wall that we usually see in crime and mystery suspense films, but actually use the tools we have with the newspaper background and assemble something like a newspaper rough layout page. As you can see, we're not in a very dark film noir setting, but we actually have this Southern European nice warm light, and those colors were the ones that we tried to get in all aspects of the game. Even the characters. Melinda is associated with this orange tone, and Jorge, although you don't see it right here, is more of the petrol blue, even used in the apartment to a certain degree. During the daytime it's not that obvious, but this is his blanket, which is blue of course, this being Melinda's orange-red bag. So this is kind of her corner here, where we first talk to her, of course. And this is his part of the apartment, the old bluish part. From my part, I would like to thank you for playing this game in advance. My name is Tobe Meyer. I'm the, in that case, lead designer on this project. Making this project was a wonderful opportunity for me to combine some personal experience and some friendship into one game. It actually started out by having my close friend and our CEO of Mipumi, Greg, be stuck in a wheelchair, and at some point when he got really bored, he started watching movies, and he said, I'd like to make a game about being in a wheelchair. And I think that was a wonderful situation for both of us. We managed to finally do something together, and it's amazing. It's been an amazing ride, and I'm glad it worked out the way it did. So thank you again for watching, and I hope I'll see you in our next game in the mountains. Bye.
Hi everyone, I'm Robin Ress, and together with Maarten Loijsen we are Rusty Lake, the creators of The White Door. We are a two-man team based in Amsterdam, and I'm responsible for the publishing, marketing and community, and Maarten is the programmer and artist of our games. Together we designed the story and all the puzzles of Rusty Lake. This presentation will start with a quick introduction to the Rusty Lake universe, and afterwards we'll dive into the creation process of the White Door and the alternate reality game ARG we created around the release. And I will end with a small story that happened during the development of the game. So it was back in spring 2015. We were big fans of Twin Peaks, still are, and we thought, hey, let's create a similar surrealistic universe where all games can take place. We now exist for 5 years and we have made 15 point-and-click adventure games in total. And The White Door is definitely one of the biggest highlights of the series, and it came out on January 9 this year. So after creating a lot of games with the same kind of gameplay and style, we really wanted to step out of our comfort zone, challenge ourselves and create something different, something unique, and something that would even reach a broader audience than our previous Rusty Lake games. And this project became The White Door. Yeah, we had to start from scratch to design something different. We started with the concept of a man who has memory loss and is trapped inside of a room. We came up with a very basic art style, just black and white, which also fitted the theme. And we had to come up with a whole new kind of gameplay. As you can see here, we used a split screen as a framework for the gameplay, with the top-down view on the left where you control the character, and on the right you have a more zoomed-in view where you can have interactions with objects and items. In the game you play as Robert Hill. He wakes up in a room, has no clue who he is or where he is, and you slowly found out that you are trapped in this mental health facility. A big part of the gameplay is guiding Robert through his daily routine. You wake up, you need to eat breakfast, you need to brush your teeth, and every day you get a checkup where you need to answer some questions about new information you find in his room. You do a memory test on the computer. At 6 o'clock your dinner arrives, and there's still a bit of time left to do some recreation. This is a box that changes every day. Sometimes you're allowed to do some exercising, play ping pong or play dominoes. This whole routine is basically a mix of point and click kind of gameplay, puzzles and mini games. And designing this whole routine was really important for the game, because this is how you as a player progress through the days. And every day we would make some minor but also bigger changes in the routine to keep it interesting for the players. Suddenly a rat will appear and eat your donut, or the alarm goes off and you have to hack the system. The last step of the routine is going to sleep, and this is actually where the narrative part of the game starts. And it almost feels or plays like a visual novel. The gameplay is much different here than during the daytime. You read the text on the left or you listen to the voiceover, and this is also your guide for the interactions you have on the right screen. In this example, you move to the right to see Robert Hill sitting at the table, and you swipe up to to give him a sip of coffee. And as Robert goes to bed every night, he will have these dreams in which he slowly recollects his memories. And as the days goes by, you will learn more about Robert Hill's life and also bring back color to his life. And of course, it will get a bit dark, a bit eerie and mysterious, which is also the trademark of Rusty Lake. Another big part of the experience is the soundtrack of the game, which is made by Victor Bitzelaar. And his work really helps creating this eerie atmosphere that progresses through the days and dreams. As well as the voiceovers from Bob Rafferty are really amazing work and brings you inside of the head of Robert Hill. All in all, it was a big challenge for us to change the gameplay and puzzle mechanics we used to know. We never made a game without an inventory, and it was just a really big challenge. And especially also because we want to create our most narrative-based game so far. But after a year of hard work, we became really proud of the project and what we achieved, and that we could make something out of the ordinary while remaining the same Rusty Lake touch. Yeah, as mentioned, we also created an ARG, which stands for Alternate Reality Game, around the release of the White Door. We decided to put a telephone number inside of the game, on which our fans could hear a voicemail mentioning a website. And that website, which was a 90s website, went live shortly after the release, and players had to hack it and find 10 physical locations. On these locations we hid 10 handcrafted cubes with a special code inside, and eventually, after all the 10 cubes were unlocked, people could get a secret ending in the game. And more than 20,000 players played this ARG, and we never expected that all the cubes, which were hidden from San Francisco to Tokyo, would be found in less than 24 hours. It created a lot of buzz around the game, and we had some big YouTubers live streaming the ARG. I would like to end with a fun story during the development of the game. One of our fans asked for a big personal favor. He wanted to propose to his girlfriend, Laura, through the White Door. At the time we were just in the early phase of the game. We had made a couple of dreams so far, and luckily for his request we only had to change a couple of scenes. And afterwards we created a fake test version and invited both of them into a fake meeting room. She was really enthusiastic. She played the first level, and then Dylan went on his knees, just as in the game, and luckily she said yes. So, thank you all for watching the presentation of the White Door.
Pues ya está, Jafo. Ha sido un rato muy intenso, con un montón de presentaciones interesantísimas, con un nivel muy alto, que se lo va a poner muy complicado a un jurado que no hemos presentado. Y antes de despedirnos vamos a aprovechar para presentar al jurado y darles las gracias desde aquí por la labor tan importante y tan difícil que han tenido estos días.
Eso es. A mí me gustaría sobre todo agradecer tanto a Daniel Muriel como a Jupiter Harley su duro trabajo en todo el proceso de preselección y también de valoración de los finalistas. Así que sin ellos tampoco sería posible realizar este certamen.
Daniel, doctor en Sociología, crítico de videojuegos, ha escrito mucho también, tanto desde el punto de vista periodístico como teórico, sobre videojuegos, y Jupiter Hadley, que es periodista de videojuegos, pero también scout de Armor Games, de algún publisher, con una amplísima experiencia en jurado de game jams y de concursos de este tipo, y por supuesto tú, de presidente del jurado, por si hay algún empate.
Eso es.
Bueno, no tenemos tiempo para más. Muchísimas gracias, Jafo. Esperamos que os hayan interesado estos fantásticos juegos y esperamos el fallo del jurado con auténtica emoción.
Muy bien.
Hasta luego, Jafo.
Venga, chao.